My boyfriend humiliated me by calling me obese in front of his friends just to make them laugh. Everyone laughed, except me. I'd been dating him for 2 years when he finally invited me to dinner with his colleagues. 2 years of excuses why I couldn't meet anyone from his professional life. Then one Tuesday. Dinner with the team Friday. You should come. 7:30 at Michelangelo's. That expensive Italian place downtown. The kind of restaurant where meals cost more than I made in a day. Maybe this meant he was finally proud of me. Finally ready to show me off instead of keeping me separate. I spent an hour getting ready, curled my hair into loose waves, spent extra time on makeup trying to look sophisticated, wore the navy blue dress I'd been saving for something special. I practiced in the mirror. Hi, I'm his girlfriend, so nice to finally meet you. I arrived exactly on time. 7:30. Not early, not late. Exactly right. When I walked in, he was already there with 4 colleagues, all laughing at something. He barely looked up. Oh, you made it. He glanced at his watch, a gesture that seemed almost performative. I thought you weren't coming. I was exactly on time. I'd made absolutely certain of it. The words formed in my throat but died before reaching my lips. Why would he say that? Everyone at the table could see the clock on the wall showing 7:30 exactly. His colleagues gave me those polite smiles people wear when they've just witnessed something uncomfortable, when they don't know where to look or what to say. The kind of smiles that don't reach the eyes, that say, I saw that awkward thing, but I'm going to pretend I didn't. I slid into the empty chair across from him, my earlier excitement deflating like a balloon losing air. The beautiful dress suddenly felt too tight. The carefully practiced introduction died on my lips. I just nodded hello to the table, managed a weak, nice to meet you all, and focused very intently on unfolding my napkin. The conversation at the table continued around me, something about quarterly projections and client meetings. I tried to follow along, tried to find a natural entry point, but it felt like they were speaking a language I only half understood. Corporate jargon and inside references that went over my head. When the waiter finally came around to our table, tall and professional with a French accent, I was actually relieved to have something concrete to focus on. I'd looked up the menu during my lunch break at work, reading reviews on my phone while eating a sad desk salad. The mushroom risotto had excellent ratings. People said it was creamy and rich, with truffle oil and fresh parmesan. I'd been looking forward to it all day, imagining how it would taste. This place was so expensive I would never come here on my own. My retail manager's salary didn't leave room for $40 entrees, but he'd invited me, so this was my chance to try something special. I'll have the mushroom risotto, please, I said to the waiter, trying to sound confident and sophisticated. With the truffle oil. Before the waiter could even write it down, before he could move his pen to the paper, my boyfriend cut in with a laugh. But it wasn't really a laugh. It was sharper than that. Meaner. Carbs? Seriously? He turned to his colleagues with this exaggerated look of disbelief, playing to the crowd. You guys won't believe this. She literally spent 20 minutes this morning crying because she felt fat. And now she wants pasta with cream sauce? One colleague shifted uncomfortably, but another, a guy with glasses, chuckled, taking the bait. My boyfriend was encouraged. He leaned back in his chair, grinning now, fully performing. I'm not kidding. It's like dating someone with zero self-control. He looked directly at me, still smiling like this was all a hilarious joke we were sharing. Babe, remember last week? You said your jeans didn't fit anymore? And I'm trying to help you here, but you keep ordering the worst possible things. The woman across from me looked down at her plate. The waiter's pen still hovered, frozen. Actually, my voice came out tiny, I'll have the grilled chicken salad, dressing on the side. See? My boyfriend announced to the table triumphantly. I'm just being honest with her. Someone has to be. If I don't tell her she's getting fat, who will? It's because I care. The guy with glasses nodded. Yeah, man, you're just keeping it real. Another colleague laughed uncomfortably. Honesty is important. Everyone nodded, agreed. Made me feel like I was the problem for being sensitive. The conversation moved to their work projects, but I couldn't focus over the rushing in my ears. I felt like I'd shrunk in my chair, gotten physically smaller with each word. And the worst part? I was angry at myself for ordering the risotto, for not having more self-control, for embarrassing him. My jeans had been tight. He was just trying to help. He cared enough to be honest when no one else would. That's what I told myself, because the alternative was unbearable. About 20 minutes later, the bread basket came around. I reached for a piece without thinking. Just wanted something to do with my hands. My boyfriend's hand shot out, pulling the basket away before I could touch it. Trust me, you really don't need that. He said it loud enough for the table to hear, grinning like it was playful teasing. "We're trying to fit into those jeans, remember?" His colleagues laughed. Not big laughs, but they laughed. Everyone laughed. Except me. Later, when dessert came, he ordered tiramisu for himself. The waiter looked at me. "Nothing for her," my boyfriend said before I could speak. "She's watching her figure. Or trying to, anyway." He winked at his colleagues. More uncomfortable laughter rippled around the table. I sat there, hands clenched in my lap, throat burning, eyes stinging, trying desperately not to cry in front of these strangers who were watching my boyfriend systematically humiliate me about my weight, while they all nodded along like he was doing me a favor. "My friend felt bad for her," he said, gesturing at me like I wasn't there. "Asked me to give her a chance. And I figured, why not?" He turned to me with that condescending smile. "You're a supervisor at a retail store, right? One of those jobs that doesn't really require a degree." Someone cleared their throat. No one looked at me. His phone buzzed. Once, twice, 3 times. Each time, his face lit up in a way it never did for me. He'd type back, grinning. I tried to contribute once. Mentioned something about team management from my actual job. He laughed. "Oh, you're talking about management? That's cute." He turned to his colleagues. "Let me explain how it actually works in the corporate world." Then came the comparison I'd heard 100 variations of. My ex was a doctor, super accomplished, always traveling to conferences. He sipped his wine. I thought it might be nice to date someone more available, more domestic. The way he said domestic made it sound like an appliance. I excused myself before dessert arrived, mumbling something about the bathroom. Nobody tried to stop me. I locked myself in a bathroom stall. The bathroom was nicer than my entire apartment. Marble countertops, classical music playing softly. Even the bathroom mocked me. My throat felt tight. That familiar pressure building behind my eyes that meant tears were coming whether I wanted them or not. Breathe. Just breathe. Get through dessert. Get home. Fall apart then. 2 women came in, heels clicking on marble. I heard water running, paper towels being pulled. Their voices echoed clearly. "Did you see that guy at table 12? One of them said, voice disgusted. "What an absolute asshole." "I know." The second woman's voice was sadder. "That poor girl. She deserves so much better. My ex used to do that shit." They were talking about me, about us, strangers who could see in 15 minutes what I'd somehow missed for 2 years. I heard them leave, sat there another minute in silence, pulled out my phone, checked his social media even though I'd trained myself not to. There it was, posted 18 minutes ago. Photo of the restaurant, carefully filtered. Caption, "Networking with the best." I wasn't in the photo. Wasn't mentioned. I scrolled through comments. One made my stomach drop. "Where's your girlfriend? Thought she was coming?" His response, 3 laughing emojis. That's it. That's all I was worth. I splashed cold water on my face, careful not to ruin my makeup completely. Looked at myself in the mirror. Really looked. When had I become this person who apologized for ordering risotto? I gave myself a silent pep talk. You can do this. Just get through dessert. Then you never have to see these people again. Fixed my makeup. Reapplied lipstick with a steady hand even though inside I was screaming. Took 3 deep breaths. Then I walked back to that table with my head up, ready to finish this disaster. The check came. $287. It sat there for a long moment. He pushed it toward me. "You have a credit card, right? Consider it an investment in your networking." He smirked. "Since you always order expensive stuff when you're not the one paying." Wait, what? I'd paid for almost everything we'd done together for 2 years. But I reached for my purse anyway. What else was I supposed to do? The card that was already maxed out. That's when he stood up. "You know what? This was fun, but we're done. We just don't fit." And he left. Just walked out with his colleagues, their laughter trailing behind, leaving me alone with a check I couldn't afford and a room full of strangers who'd witnessed everything. I paid. I even left a 15% tip because none of this was the waiter's fault. Then I sat in my car in the parking garage for 20 minutes, crying so hard I couldn't see to drive. When I finally made it home, I was still wearing that dress. Makeup ruined. That's when I saw the envelope on my coffee table, half buried under takeout menus and mail. He'd left it weeks ago and forgotten about it. I picked it up, almost threw it away, then pulled out the papers inside. Pay stubs. His actual pay stubs from the past 6 months. My hand stopped moving. $2,800 a month. Assistant administrative level. Not $7,000. Not the executive position he'd described in such elaborate detail. Not the corner office. Not the team of reports. Not any of it. I sat down hard on the floor, my legs giving out. Read them over and over. 6 months of evidence. March through August. Same numbers every month, same salary, same basic title, same reality he'd been hiding for 2 years. How had he afforded anything? The nice clothes? The car? The apartment? Then it hit me. He hadn't. I had. I'd paid for most of our meals because he forgot his wallet. I'd loaned him money that was never repaid. 50 here, 80 there. Just until payday, he'd say. Payday that apparently brought barely enough to survive, let alone the lifestyle he pretended to have. I'd bought groceries for his apartment, filled his gas tank, picked up countless checks while he promised he'd get the next one. There had never been a next one. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness, from something colder, clearer. I took photos of every page with my phone, made sure the numbers were visible, dates clear, created a folder labeled evidence. Evidence of what? I wasn't sure. But some instinct told me I might need proof, that he was the kind of person who'd lie about lying, who'd make me doubt my own memory. I filed the physical copies in my desk drawer, behind my tax returns. Then I sat on my floor in that expensive dress and let myself process it. Everything was a lie. The presentations, the negotiations, the business trips, the team he managed, the executive decisions, all of it. Every word, every story, fiction. And if he could lie about that so completely, for so long, what else had been a lie? I spent the weekend in my apartment, curtains drawn against the world. Saturday passed in a blur. Sunday morning, I called my best friend. I need you to come over. Now. On my way. She arrived within the hour carrying Chinese takeout and a determined expression, took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. We sat on my living room floor, containers of food between us that I couldn't bring myself to eat. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. The restaurant. Every humiliating detail. The check. The way he just walked out. And then the pay stubs I'd found. She was quiet for a long moment. Chopsticks frozen halfway to her mouth. That absolute piece of shit, she finally said. I'm sorry, I know that's not helpful, but that's what he is. I feel so stupid. How did I not see it? 2 years of my life just wasted on someone who was lying about literally everything. You're not stupid. He was methodical. That's what manipulators do. They don't reveal themselves all at once. She set down her food. What are you going to do? I don't know. Part of me wants to just disappear. Block him everywhere. Pretend he never existed and move on. You could do that. But do you remember how long he'd been promising you'd meet his parents? I thought about it. 6 months, maybe longer. 6 months of excuses. They were traveling. His dad was recovering from surgery. The holidays were too busy. His mom was renovating. Always something, I said slowly, the realization settling cold in my stomach. He was lying about that too, she said gently. Probably lying about everything. I pulled my knees up to my chest. What if I just let it go? Is that healthier? Just walk away and focus on healing? That's a totally valid option. No one would blame you. She paused. But I also know you. And I know that 5 years from now, you'll wonder if you should have done something. If you should have warned his family or stopped him from doing this to the next girl. I don't know if I can face him again. You don't have to decide right now. Just think about it. We sat there for a while longer. And eventually, I managed to eat a few bites. She stayed the night, sleeping on my couch, making sure I wasn't alone. Monday morning, I went to work but couldn't focus. Inventory reports blurred on my computer screen. Employee schedules made no sense. My mind kept circling back to those pay stubs, to the number 2800, to the title administrative assistant. At lunch, instead of eating in the break room like usual, I got in my car and drove downtown. I had to see it for myself, had to confirm what the papers told me was true. I parked across the street from his office building in a public lot where I had a clear view through the massive glass lobby. The building was one of those modern corporate towers, all reflective glass and polished steel. Impressive from the outside. The kind of place that looked exactly like somewhere an executive would work. I sat there with my car running, heat on even though it wasn't that cold outside. And I watched. At 12:15, I saw him emerge from the elevator bank. He was carrying a tray with 4 coffee cups, walking carefully so nothing would spill, concentrating on balance. He delivered them to a conference room where I could see men in expensive suits already seated, then backed out quickly, closing the door behind him. Not in the meeting, just bringing the coffee. 20 minutes later, he was at the copy machine by the window, standing there feeding pages through sheet after sheet while people in business attire walked past him without even a glance. He was part of the infrastructure, like the copier itself. Necessary but invisible. I watched him staple thick reports, his hands moving mechanically, stack after stack, then carrying them somewhere, delivering them, returning to his desk. For 45 minutes, I watched. He never entered a conference room as a participant, never sat at a desk that looked like it belonged to someone with authority, never presented anything to anyone, never led anything. He was exactly what his pay stub said he was. An assistant making $2,800 a month, fetching coffee and making copies and running errands for the people who actually had the jobs he claimed to have. I watched him, and something inside me cracked. Not in a dramatic way. More like ice that's been weakening all winter finally giving way. Because seeing it with my own eyes made it undeniable. Real. No more room for doubt or excuses, or maybe I'm misunderstanding. He'd lied about everything, and I'd believed all of it. I cried for 20 minutes in my car before I could pull myself together enough to drive back to work. Not because I missed him, but because I couldn't comprehend how someone could sustain such elaborate deception for so long. How they could wake up every day and choose to keep building this false reality. And more importantly, what it said about me that I'd never questioned it, never looked closer, never demanded proof. 2 weeks after that restaurant, 2 weeks of trying to forget, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Hi, sweetheart. Just confirming you're still coming to dinner Saturday for the birthday celebration? It was his mother. Warm, excited, asking if I was still coming to his birthday dinner. I'm sorry. What? Oh, didn't he tell you? 7 o'clock, pot roast. He's been telling everyone about that apartment you two are renting together. The one with the good school district? $1,500 a month, such a steal. We're all so excited for you both. The room spun. He'd told his entire family we were still together, planning a future, moving in together, into an apartment that cost $1,500 a month when his salary was $2,800. I'll be there, I heard myself say. After I hung up with his mother, I stood in my kitchen for a full minute, phone still in my hand, trying to process what had just happened. Then I called my therapist's emergency line. I need to see you, as soon as possible. She fit me in the next morning, moving another appointment to accommodate me. I told her everything. The restaurant, the pay stubs, the investigation at his office, and now this dinner invitation from a family that thought we were still together and planning a future. What do you actually want from this? She asked carefully, leaning forward in her chair. And I want you to really think about it before you answer. I don't know, justice? Justice? Or do you want him to feel what you felt in that restaurant? Because those are two different things. I was quiet, turning the question over in my mind. I keep thinking about his family, I finally said. His mom sounded so happy on the phone, so excited about this fake apartment we're supposedly renting. And I feel like they deserve to know who he really is. What he's really like. That's fair. But I'm going to push back a little. She set down her notepad. You're not responsible for educating his family about his behavior. You're not obligated to put yourself through what will likely be an extremely uncomfortable, possibly traumatic situation just to expose him. I know that intellectually. But emotionally? Emotionally, I think I need to do this. Not for revenge, not to hurt him back, but because if I don't, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what if, wondering if I was too much of a coward to stand up for myself when it mattered. She nodded slowly. Okay, but if you're going to do this, we need to prepare you, because he's going to fight back. He's going to try to turn this around on you, make you the villain, play the victim. Are you ready for that? I don't know if anyone's ever ready for that, but I think I need to try. We spent the rest of the session role-playing different scenarios, practicing what I might say, how I might respond when he inevitably tried to manipulate the situation. By the time I left, I felt slightly less terrified. Only slightly. Thursday afternoon, I went to the mall and bought a dress. $120. The kind he would have called too much or not your style. The saleswoman said, "That looks beautiful on you." No qualifiers. No criticism, just a compliment. I almost cried in the fitting room. I found his coworker on social media, the one from the office. I know this is weird, I messaged him, but I need to ask you something. About the promotion he said he got? He responded an hour later. Look, I don't want to get involved in personal stuff. I sent him the photos of the pay stubs, screenshots showing discrepancies. Please. His family thinks we're still together. They think he's an executive. They're planning their lives around his lies. They deserve to know the truth. The dinner is Saturday at 7. Could you come at 8:15 exactly? That way they'll have had time to ask him questions, and your arrival will seem natural, like you're just dropping off work documents. 2 hours passed before he responded. I checked my phone obsessively every few minutes during those 2 hours, my anxiety building with each minute of silence. Okay, 8:15. I'll bring some actual reports that need his signature so it looks legitimate. I'll hand them over and leave immediately after. No speeches from me. But you're right, his family deserves to know. I stared at his message for a long time. 8:15. That would give the family over an hour with him first. Time for questions. Time for his vague answers. Time for contradictions to build. I responded simply, "Thank you." 8:15. Friday night, I barely slept. Saturday morning, I woke at 6 even though dinner wasn't until 7 that evening. I spent the day trying to stay busy. Shower, coffee, reorganizing things that didn't need reorganizing. Another shower at noon. Anything to keep moving, to prevent myself from thinking too much. At 3, my friend called. "How are you holding up? I feel like I'm going to throw up. Is this normal?" Completely normal. What you're about to do takes incredible courage. Your body is processing that. What if I'm making a huge mistake? What if this is vindictive and I should just let it go? Do you think you're being vindictive? I really considered the question. Sat with it. Turned it over in my mind. No, I finally said. The answer feeling true as I spoke it. I think his family deserves the truth about who they're dealing with. His younger brother deserves to know before he defends more lies and gets in trouble again. And he needs to face real consequences for systematically manipulating everyone who cares about him. And I need to prove to myself that I can do hard things even when I'm terrified. Then trust that. Trust yourself. You've thought this through carefully. You're not acting impulsively or out of anger or bitterness. You're doing something incredibly difficult because you believe it's right, because it needs to be done. But what if it goes wrong? What if they don't believe me? What if he turns it all around and makes me look crazy? Then you walk away knowing you tried, knowing you told the truth. That's all you can control. You can't control how they react. You can only control showing up with honesty and evidence. The evidence. God, I have photos of his pay stubs. I have a coworker coming to verify. This feels so calculated, so planned. Maybe I should just stop. Listen to me. You're not being cruel. You're being strategic because you learned the hard way that he'll lie his way out of anything if you give him the chance. There's nothing wrong with being prepared. There's nothing wrong with having proof. We talked for another hour. She helped me plan what to wear with the dress, how to style my hair, how to stay calm if he tried to gaslight me in front of his family. Having concrete tasks, specific actions to focus on, helped make it feel slightly less overwhelming, made it feel possible instead of impossible. At 5, I started getting ready. The emerald dress still looked beautiful on me, still made me feel powerful in a way I desperately needed right then. Did my makeup carefully, though my hands were shaking and I had to redo my eyeliner twice. By 6, I was ready. An hour early. Sat on my couch, hands folded in my lap, purse already packed with my phone and keys, unable to do anything except watch the clock move forward with agonizing slowness. 6:15, 6:30, 6:45. Each minute felt like an hour. Each hour felt like a day. At 6:50, I forced myself to stand up, forced my legs to carry me to my car. 7:10, I finally put the car in reverse and backed out of my parking spot. The drive was only 15 minutes, but it felt both endless and much too short. I took side streets instead of the highway, unconsciously delaying, making it last longer. I got honked at twice for driving too slowly. The first time startled me so badly I almost swerved. The second time I barely registered it. When I finally reached their neighborhood, my hands were sweating on the steering wheel. Nice suburban street. Tree-lined, houses with tidy lawns and basketball hoops in driveways, the kind of neighborhood that promised normalcy, stability, wholesome family life. I found their house easily. He'd pointed it out once, months ago, driving past it casually. "That's where I grew up," he'd said. I'd asked when I'd get to meet them. He'd changed the subject so smoothly I almost didn't notice. I parked 3 houses away. Couldn't make myself pull directly in front. Those 3 houses felt like a safety margin, like escape was still possible. Turned off the engine. Sat there. 10 full minutes passed. Maybe longer. I watched their house. Lights were on inside. Through a front window, I could see movement, shapes of people. Heard muted laughter or conversation. Couldn't tell which. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly they ached. I forced them to relax. Tried to shake feeling back into my fingers. I could leave. Just turn the key, start the engine, and drive away. Text his mother in an hour. So sorry. Got food poisoning, can't make it. Block the number. Never think about any of them again. It would be so easy. My hand actually reached for the keys. Touched them. The metal was cold. But then I thought about his mother's voice on that phone call. So genuinely excited about this apartment we were supposedly renting, planning her life around her son's fiction, and his younger brother who'd gotten suspended from school for fighting to defend his brother's supposed achievements, and the next girl he'd date, who'd spend 2 years like I did, shrinking herself smaller and smaller to fit into someone else's lie. And I thought about myself in 5 years, in 10 years, having to live with the choice I made in this car, having to know I'd chosen comfort over courage when it mattered. I took my hand off the keys, took a deep breath, got out before I could overthink it anymore, locked the car. The beep sounded impossibly loud in the quiet street, walked slowly toward their house, each step deliberate. My heels clicked on the sidewalk. 1 house away, 2 houses away. Now I was standing at the end of their walkway, 15 feet of concrete path between me and their front door. Might as well have been a mile. I could still turn around. They hadn't seen me yet. I could walk back to my car and no one would ever know I'd been here. But I kept walking, 1 foot in front of the other, 5 feet from the door, 3 feet, 1. My finger hovered over the doorbell, pulled back, hovered again. Just do it. 1 small motion. That's all it takes. I pressed the bell, heard the chime inside, cheerful and welcoming, heard footsteps approaching, multiple voices calling, "I'll get it!" The door handle turned. Too late now. No going back. His mother opened the door with a huge smile that lit up her entire face, immediately pulling me into a warm hug that smelled like vanilla and cinnamon, like home cooking and comfort. "You came! Oh, we're so glad you're here. Come in, come in!" His sister was right behind her, grinning, wrapping me in another hug. "It's so good to see you. It's been too long." His father approached with his hand extended for a warm handshake, both hands wrapping around mine. "Welcome, welcome. Glad you could join us for the celebration." And there, standing frozen in the living room doorway, was my ex. His face went through a visible transformation when he saw me walk through that door. White, then red, then white again. His mouth opened slightly, closed, opened again. No sound came out. He hadn't expected me to come. He'd thought he'd gotten away with it all. Dinner started normally, almost disturbingly so. The dining room table was beautifully set with what looked like the good china, candles flickering, cloth napkins folded into elegant shapes. The food smelled incredible, pot roast and roasted vegetables and fresh bread. Everyone was in genuinely good spirits, laughing and chatting, passing dishes around. They asked him questions about work, casual, proud parent questions, about the new promotion he'd told them about the apartment we were supposedly getting ready to rent together, about his exciting career trajectory. "Tell us more about the new responsibilities," his father said, leaning forward with unmistakable pride shining in his eyes. "I want to hear about this management position. What kind of team will you be leading?" My ex fumbled through vague answers. His words came out in fragments, disconnected. It's complicated, Dad. You know how corporate structures are. Very matrix-based, lots of stakeholders, moving pieces. Empty buzzwords strung together. Nonsense disguised as sophistication. Sweat was forming visibly on his upper lip even though the house wasn't warm. He kept wiping his palms on his pants under the table where he thought no one could see. At 8:15 exactly, the doorbell rang. My ex jumped in his seat like he'd been shocked. His coworker stood there when his father answered, looking absolutely miserable, like he wanted the ground to open up and swallow him. He was clutching a folder with both hands, knuckles white. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, voice tight. "I have some documents that need immediate attention." My ex shot up from his chair so fast it scraped loudly against the floor. "Let's handle this outside," he said too quickly, too urgently, already moving toward the door. "This is work stuff, boring policy documents. You don't want to sit through." His father held up a hand, firm, authoritative, the voice of someone used to being listened to. "Sit down, son. We're all adults here. Whatever it is can be discussed at the table. No secrets in this family." The irony of that statement hung heavy in the air. His mother was already clearing a space, insisting the coworker stay. "We haven't even had dessert yet. I made chocolate cake from scratch. You can't leave before dessert. I won't hear of it." The poor man sat down reluctantly when his father pulled out a chair and gestured to it. It wasn't a suggestion. "So you work with our son?" his father asked pleasantly, the way fathers do when they're proud and want to hear good things. "Tell us about that big presentation he led last month, the one with all the regional directors." He said it went exceptionally well. The co-worker's eyes darted desperately around the table. To me, to my ex, to his hands, to the untouched plate of food in front of him, anywhere but at the father's expectant, proud face. The silence stretched. 2 seconds. 5. 10. You could hear someone's watch ticking. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet and apologetic. "Actually, sir, I'm afraid that presentation was led by our direct supervisor, Mr. Patterson. The whole administrative support team provided backup, your son included, but Mr. Patterson was the one presenting to regional leadership. We weren't in the actual meeting room. We compiled data and formatted slides in advance." You could have heard a pin drop. The cheerful dinner atmosphere evaporated instantly, replaced by something heavy and uncomfortable. "I don't understand," his mother said carefully. "Honey, you said you led that presentation. There's some confusion," my ex said quickly. "I mean, I basically ran everything," his sister cut in. "But you showed me your executive badge last week." The co-worker cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we all have standard badges. They say administrative assistant at the bottom. Maybe the photo was cropped?" His younger brother pushed his chair back. The scrape was loud. "Wait, you told me you were a vice president. I told all my friends. I got in a fight defending you when someone called you a liar." His voice cracked. "I got suspended for 3 days because I believed you." My ex's face cycled through panic and anger. He pointed at me suddenly. "This is insane. She's obsessed with me. Been stalking me since I broke up with her. She's trying to ruin my life because I moved on. She probably even paid him to come here and lie." "You left me in a restaurant," I said quietly. Every head turned. "After inviting me to dinner with your colleagues, criticizing everything I ordered, comparing me to your ex, you stuck me with a $287 check. You told everyone my job didn't require a degree, that your friend had to convince you to date me. Then you dumped me in front of everyone and walked out." His mother's hand flew to her mouth. "Is that true?" his father asked. His voice was low, controlled. "Did you do that?" Silence. "Do you know how much rent costs for this house?" his father continued. $2,300 a month. Your salary is $2,800. You were going to rent an apartment for $1,500 with what money? His mother was rummaging through her purse. She froze, pulling out a crumpled receipt. "What is this?" Her voice shook. "This hotel receipt from 2 hours away. The date you said you were at that national conference." He opened his mouth, closed it. No sound came out. His brother spoke up. "That photo you showed me, the one of you in a meeting with the executive director. Where did that come from?" the coworker said quietly. "That photo is on the company website. Anyone can download it." The grandmother, who'd been silent, stood up slowly, used her cane for support. "I didn't raise anyone in this family to lie like this," she said, her voice cutting. Then she walked out. We heard her bedroom door close. The father's disappointment was worse than any anger. "We taught you better than this, from the time you were little." That's when my ex lost control. Started yelling about conspiracy. About me trying to destroy him. He slammed his fist on the table. Dishes jumped. His mother gasped. Then he shoved his chair back. It toppled, crashed into the wall, shattered a framed photo. He stormed out. The front door slammed so hard the windows rattled. Heavy silence. His mother started crying quietly, covering her face with her napkin. I stood to leave, but she grabbed my hand. "Please don't go. None of this is your fault." In the kitchen, while cleaning up, she confessed through tears that she'd known something was wrong but was too scared to look closely. His sister admitted she'd confronted him months ago about his exaggerations, but he'd accused her of being jealous. His father thanked me formally. "We should have seen this. Should have addressed it." I felt unexpected empathy. He needed help. Professional help. But understanding context didn't excuse 2 years of systematic abuse. "I'm not trying to destroy him," I said, "but I can't pretend the last 2 years didn't happen. He needs help, but I can't be part of that process." His mother nodded. "You deserve so much better." Before I left, his father pulled me aside. "What about our grandson, my youngest? He got in trouble at school because of these lies." "I know," I said. "I'm sorry he went through that. He'll be okay. We'll talk to him. Make sure he understands." He paused. "And mother, she's devastated, but she's strong. She'll come around, I hope." In the weeks that followed, some mutual friends defended him. Others reached out privately. A group message from his high school friends. We always knew he exaggerated. He told us he was a regional director last year. We should have warned you. One night, unable to sleep, I looked up the perfect Dr. X he'd mentioned constantly. Found her profile. She was successful, seemed happy. I scrolled back through years of photos, found one picture of them together. He'd commented, "Best girlfriend in the world." Her reply, 2 years later, "Please stop tagging me in old photos. We dated for 2 months 5 years ago. It was casual. You know this. 2 months." He'd described it as a serious long-term relationship. I closed my laptop and stared at the wall. His mother sent a handwritten letter, an actual letter in the mail, apologizing for her son's behavior and for failing as a mother to see his problems. His sister stayed in touch. At first, just polite check-in texts. "How are you holding up? I'm so sorry about my brother." Standard stuff. But 3 weeks after the dinner, she asked if I wanted to meet for coffee. We sat in a corner booth at a place halfway between our apartments. She looked tired, older somehow than she had at the dinner. "I need to tell you something," she said, stirring her coffee without drinking it. "I confronted him about a year ago. About the lying, the exaggerations. I could see he was getting worse. What happened? He told me I was jealous, that I couldn't handle his success, that I'd always been the unsuccessful sibling and now I was trying to bring him down." She laughed bitterly. And I believed him. Or I let myself believe him, because it was easier than admitting my brother might have serious problems. It's not your fault, isn't it, though? I saw the signs. I knew something was wrong. But I didn't want family drama, you know? Didn't want to be the one who caused problems at holidays, made mom cry, made dad disappointed. So I just let it go. And then he did this to you. He did this to me. Not you. He made his choices. She finally took a sip of coffee. He's living with our cousin now. Lost his job about 2 weeks ago. Too many absences, apparently. He's telling everyone it was budget cuts, that they're just using that as an excuse because they were intimidated by him. Of course he is. Mom and dad tried to get him to go to therapy. Offered to pay for everything. He refused. Said therapists are for weak people who can't handle their own problems. She met my eyes. "How are you, actually? Honestly? Some days I'm okay. I go to therapy twice a week now. I'm learning to recognize all the warning signs I missed. Other days I wake up and can't believe I wasted 2 years of my life." What kind of warning signs? The way he'd criticize me but frame it as concern. The way he'd isolate me from other people but call it wanting quality time together. How he made me feel like I was lucky he tolerated me instead of him feeling lucky to be with me. She nodded slowly, and I could see something clicking behind her eyes. That sounds familiar. In other relationships I've had. It's a pattern. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. We talked for 2 more hours. About her own experiences, her own relationships, the ways she'd been learning about boundaries and self-worth. By the time we left, it felt like we'd moved past polite acquaintance into something real. "Can we do this again?" she asked. "I mean, if you're comfortable with it. I understand if being around me is too weird. I'd like that," I said. And I meant it. We met every few weeks after that. Built a real friendship based on mutual respect and shared understanding of what it meant to love someone while recognizing they had problems you couldn't fix. I started going to therapy twice a week after everything happened. My therapist, Dr. Sarah, was patient as I slowly unpacked 2 years of systematic manipulation. "Can you tell me about a typical interaction with him?" she asked during one session. "Something that felt normal at the time, but bothers you now when you look back." There was this time, maybe 8 months into the relationship. I'd made dinner, this really nice pasta dish I'd spent hours on, and when he tried it, he just kind of looked at it and said, "It's fine. Not as good as how my ex used to make it, but that's okay." How did that make you feel? I apologized. Can you believe that? I actually apologized for not making it as well as his ex. And then I asked him for her recipe so I could learn to do it better. What do you think about that now? Now I'm furious. At him for saying it, but more at myself for accepting it. For thinking that was normal? For making his dismissiveness my responsibility to fix. That's a really common response to emotional abuse, Dr. Sarah said gently. The victim internalizes the criticism, turns it inward, believes they're the problem that needs fixing. Did he do that often? Constantly. He'd say cruel things and then follow them up with, "I'm only telling you this because I care about you," or, "I just want you to be your best self." And I believed him. I genuinely thought he was helping me improve. That's how manipulation works. It's not obvious abuse. You don't see it coming because each individual instance seems small, justified, reasonable. It's only when you step back and see the full picture that you realize what was happening. Death by 1,000 cuts, I said quietly. Exactly. And the fact that you can see it now, that you can recognize the pattern, that's growth, that's healing. It doesn't happen overnight, but you're doing the work. Those sessions were hard. Some days I left feeling worse than when I arrived. All the wounds reopened and raw. But slowly, week by week, I started to understand how thoroughly he'd dismantled my sense of self-worth. And more importantly, I started to rebuild it. 3 weeks after the dinner, he started messaging. At first, I blocked his main number immediately. But then new messages started coming through from numbers I didn't recognize. First, they were angry. You destroyed my entire life. I hope you're satisfied. Everyone thinks I'm a liar now because of you. My own family won't talk to me. Then they shifted. Became manipulative. I only acted that way because you never appreciated what I did for you. I was trying to be the man you wanted me to be. You pressured me into lying about my job. That last one almost made me laugh. Almost. Then came the nostalgic messages. Remember when we used to watch movies together? You'd fall asleep on my shoulder and I'd just hold you. I miss the way you'd text me good morning every single day. Remember that weekend we went to the beach? That was perfect. He was rewriting history in real time, erasing every criticism, every humiliation, every lie, creating a fantasy version of our relationship that had never existed. I didn't respond to any of them, but I saved everything. Screenshots, archived messages, documentation in case his behavior escalated. One particularly hard night, about a month after everything, I made the mistake of opening the blocked message folder. I'd been doing so well, going to therapy, focusing on rebuilding my life. But something that day had triggered me. Some small thing I can't even remember now. And I wanted to see. Needed to see. 47 messages. 47 attempts to reach me, manipulate me, pull me back in. I scrolled through them, my hands shaking, until I reached the most recent one. No one else will ever love you the way I did. You know that, right? You're going to spend the rest of your life comparing everyone to me, and they're all going to fall short. Because what we had was special. It was real. And you threw it away. I stared at that message for a long time. Too long. Because some pathetic, damaged part of me, the part he'd spent 2 years carefully crafting, wanted desperately to believe it. Wanted to believe that what we had was real love. That he genuinely cared. That he would actually change if I just gave him one more chance. That I was throwing away something valuable instead of escaping something toxic. My thumbs moved almost without conscious thought. Started typing. I miss you sometimes too. I miss feeling like someone cared about me. I stared at those words on the screen. One tap. That's all it would take. One tap and I'd be right back in it. Back in the cycle. Back in the nightmare disguised as a relationship. Back to making myself smaller and quieter and more apologetic, just to earn basic human decency from someone who would never think I was good enough. 5 minutes passed. Maybe longer. My finger hovered over send. Then I thought about the restaurant. About sitting there alone with a check I couldn't afford. About him calling my job meaningless. About 2 years of feeling inadequate. I deleted the message. Character by character, I backspaced until nothing remained. Then I blocked that number too. Added it to the ever-growing list. And then I called my friend. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I almost responded to him, I said when she answered. My voice broke. I was so close. But you didn't. Her voice was firm, grounding. You almost did, but you didn't. That's what matters. He said no one else would ever love me like he did, and part of me wants to believe that's true. Listen to me, she said. Who do you miss? Really? The guy who said your job didn't require any real skills? That your family was too simple? That you'd be prettier if you just lost 10 pounds? You don't miss him. You can't miss him because the person you think you miss never actually existed. He was a character he played. You miss the version of him you invented in your head, the one you wanted him to be. I was crying now, openly, not bothering to wipe the tears away. I know you're right. I know that intellectually. But emotionally, you're going to have moments like this, where you doubt yourself, where you wonder if you made the right choice. That's normal. That's part of healing from abuse. But you have to push through it. You have to remember why you left. We talked for another hour. By the time I hung up, I was exhausted emotionally and physically, but also calmer, clearer. I hadn't sent that message. And I knew that slowly, painfully, day by day, the urge to respond was getting weaker, the hold he had on me loosening. He created 3 more fake social media profiles over the following weeks. They were all pathetically obvious. Same writing patterns, same phrases, same manipulative tactics. I blocked every single one without responding. Eventually, after about 2 months, his attempts stopped completely. Either he'd given up or found someone new to focus on. I didn't know and didn't care. I was just grateful for the silence. I started rebuilding, not just surviving, but actually building something new. I donated all the furniture we'd bought together, the couch where he'd criticized my taste, the coffee table he'd insisted on, the bookshelf with his intellectual books he'd pressured me to read. When the donation truck drove away, I stood in my nearly empty living room and felt physically lighter. The space was mine again. I spent a Saturday afternoon painting my bedroom wall that bright coral color I'd always secretly loved, the one he'd always dismissed as too loud and attention-seeking. Every brushstroke felt like an act of reclamation, taking back territory. When I finished and stepped back, tears started flowing. Good tears this time, healing tears. It was my wall, my choice, my color, and it was beautiful. I rejoined my contemporary dance class, walked back into that familiar studio for the first time in almost 2 years. My body felt stiff and awkward at first. I positioned myself in the back corner, afraid to take up space. The instructor noticed me immediately. Her face lit up. "Welcome back. I'm so glad you decided to return. I always thought you had such beautiful natural grace when you danced. I missed seeing you here." Natural grace. Beautiful. The exact opposite of everything he'd told me. He'd said I had no rhythm, that it was embarrassing to watch me dance, that I should stick to things I was actually good at. By my 3rd class back, something shifted. I was starting to remember why I'd loved this. That feeling of moving to music without overthinking, of expressing emotions without words, of being in my body without constant judgment, just movement and breath and unexpected joy. 4 months after the birthday dinner, I was at a coffee shop with my friend on a Saturday afternoon. We were laughing about something. I can't even remember what now. Just enjoying a normal day. The sun was streaming through windows. I felt genuinely content for the first time in years. That's when I saw him. 3 people back in line. Old faded hoodie with a stain on the sleeve. Unkempt beard. Jeans that looked slept in. He looked nothing like the arrogant person I'd known. The transformation was stark. He'd always been so meticulous about appearances, about projecting success. Now he just looked lost. We made eye contact. 4 seconds that felt like forever. I saw recognition flash across his face, then something that might have been shame, then calculation as he tried to figure out what to do. He opened his mouth like he might speak. Then his eyes shifted and he saw my friend beside me. Saw I wasn't alone. He looked down, turned around, left the coffee shop without ordering. The door chimed as it closed. Was that him? My friend asked quietly, carefully, watching my face closely for signs of breakdown or panic or distress. "Yeah," I said. And I was genuinely surprised at how steady my voice sounded, how calm I actually felt inside. But it honestly doesn't matter anymore. He's just nothing to me now. But my hands were shaking slightly, a fine tremor I couldn't quite control. And I felt this strange, complicated mixture of emotions swirling together in my chest. Some pity, seeing him looking so obviously lost and diminished and directionless. But overwhelmingly, predominantly, I just felt relief. Deep, profound, almost physical relief that I wasn't trapped in that toxic dynamic anymore. That I wasn't spending my energy trying desperately to measure up to impossible standards. That I wasn't twisting myself into smaller and smaller shapes trying to fit into someone else's distorted idea of acceptable. "Are you okay?" my friend asked gently, touching my arm, grounding me in the present moment. "We can leave right now if you want. We can go literally anywhere else. Just say the word." I honestly thought I'd feel angry, I admitted slowly, trying to name and understand all the feelings accurately. Or maybe triumphant, you know? Like vindicated or satisfied that he looked so rough, so clearly struggling. But I feel nothing toward him specifically. Just nothing. Like he's a stranger I vaguely recognize, but have no emotional connection to whatsoever. And that's actually freedom. Real, genuine freedom. Not being tied to him emotionally at all. Not even through anger or revenge or satisfaction. Just complete and total nothing. We sat there for a while longer, finishing our coffee, letting the moment pass naturally. Talked about normal, everyday things. My friend told me about a guy she'd recently started seeing, someone she'd met through work. I told her about my promotion, about managing both store locations now, about how Patricia, my manager, had been amazingly supportive through absolutely everything. She's been incredible, I said. Never once made me feel like my personal situation was affecting my professionalism. Just gave me space when I needed it and support when I asked for it. That's because you're genuinely good at what you do, my friend said firmly. Despite everything he spent 2 years trying to make you believe about yourself, you're talented and capable and competent. And other people can see that clearly even if he never could. 3 weeks later, while cleaning out my closet on a quiet Sunday, I found an old notebook tucked behind some boxes. Mine, from when he used to stay over occasionally before everything fell apart. I opened it carefully, saw my own handwriting, lists I'd written during our relationship, things to improve about myself, lose 10 pounds, be less sensitive about criticism, understand expensive wine so I don't embarrass him, read more impressive books that intellectuals discuss, learn to not be annoying when he's busy with important work, be more like his successful ex-girlfriend who had everything together. 2 full pages of supposed flaws. Things I needed to fix to deserve love, to deserve him. Each item was a small wound, a place where he'd carefully planted seeds of inadequacy. Lose weight. Be smarter. Be quieter. Be different. Be better. Be anyone other than who I actually was. But on the last page, something entirely different, written recently in firmer, darker handwriting. After the dinner, after the truth, after everything. Things I actually am. A competent manager who genuinely cares for every member of my team and works hard to support their growth. A dedicated daughter who calls her parents every single week without fail. A loyal friend who shows up immediately when someone needs help, no questions asked. Someone with fundamental integrity who paid a proper tip even while being publicly humiliated in that restaurant. Someone who had extraordinary courage to show up at that impossible family dinner when every instinct screamed to run away. Someone who unconditionally deserves respect and basic human decency in any relationship. I read both lists several times. Let the contrast sink in. The person I'd tried desperately to become for him versus the person I actually was. The criticism versus the truth. The lies versus reality. I carefully tore out both pages. The old list of invented flaws went directly into the trash without ceremony or hesitation. The new list of real qualities went up on my refrigerator, held in place with that bright yellow magnet. I'd started casually seeing someone new. Daniel, a high school history teacher I'd met through a mutual friend. He said simple things like, "You look beautiful tonight," and "I love how passionate you get when you talk about work," and "Your family sounds wonderful." I'd love to meet them sometime. Just straightforward kindness. No qualifiers attached. No criticism hiding underneath waiting to strike. No, "But have you considered?" or "You'd be even better if." And slowly, painfully slowly, I was learning to believe simple compliments again, to accept kindness at face value, to trust that someone could genuinely like me exactly as I was, without needing me to transform into their fantasy of perfection. Looking back now with clear eyes and honest perspective, I understand that showing up at that dinner wasn't about revenge or vindication or making him hurt the way he'd hurt me. Though I won't pretend those feelings weren't there, because they were. It was about something much more important. It was about saving myself from years, possibly decades, of additional systematic psychological abuse that would have only escalated and intensified over time. About breaking a destructive cycle before it consumed me completely. About protecting his family from continuing to invest emotionally and financially in elaborate lies. About stopping him from doing this same thing to the next woman, and the one after that, and the one after that. But most importantly, it was about proving something crucial to myself. That I had courage I didn't know I possessed. That I could do impossibly hard things even when absolutely terrified. That I deserved better treatment and was willing to demand it. That I could stand up for myself even when every instinct screamed to stay small and quiet and invisible. I often think about that absolutely terrified woman sitting in her car 3 houses away that Saturday evening, shaking so violently she could barely hold her keys, hyperventilating, second-guessing every decision. So close to just driving away and pretending none of it had happened. I thank her. Thank her for having the extraordinary courage to turn off that engine, to walk up that sidewalk on trembling legs, to ring that doorbell even though everything inside her was screaming danger, run, hide, escape, to sit through that dinner with dignity and composure when all she wanted was to disappear into the floor. Because that impossible decision, that one moment of terrified courage, changed absolutely everything. It redirected the entire trajectory of my life, pulled me off a path that was leading steadily toward years of continued diminishment and gradual erasure of self, set me on a completely new path toward a future where I could finally actually be myself without constant apology or endless justification or perpetual modification, a future where I was enough, exactly as I was, without changing a single thing.